got to give Scott Frost so much credit for what he's done with adding firepower in the coaching ranks, replacing, those positions on his coaching staff. And then with the firepower that they've been adding through the transfer portal, that, we so many people have been so critical about the recruiting ranking that they have, from the first signing day and stuff. But if you meld those two together, I've seen some people out there saying that Nebraska's like a top 10, top 15 recruiting class overall when you mesh those two together with what they've done. And that's a credit to Scott Frost and a dedication to, moving forward and bringing in as much talent as you possibly can, to make all these, I don't know if you want to say dreams come true, but, all the expectations start to, come together a little bit. And you see a fan base that a 5-year drought without, being bowl eligible and meaning that you don't even have a 500 record, but you still have the support that you have and the expectations and just the enthusiasm right now that's going on with what is going on in the transfer portal and what Scott Frost has added to the overall look of this football team. It's going to be really, really cool to watch once we see them out there on the field here, come here into February, 1st of March.
So if you combine a recruiting class that is, I haven't looked at the rankings here recently, but around 50 or 55 in the country, something like that, with the transfers that have come in, somebody is estimating that this is a top 10 recruiting class. I think that's a pretty
and that's something
lively stretch.
I just heard that mentioned. I don't have any solid evidence to back that up, but it was a conversation that I did hear on the radio, and I trust those people that were saying that, but I can't back that up. But I mean, in my opinion, I think you'd have to throw that number around 20 to 25. It being realistic, in my opinion, with what they've added. But there is no doubt that they've added, it influxed the talent level at several key positions, and they're not done yet. That's the nice thing about it is that with the scholarship limited 85, you got to be very flexible with that and bring in a few more guys because there's so much attrition that's going to happen. You and I talked before we went on the air that, Nebraska lost Will Honus to the transfer portal today. He's a seventh year guy. But losing a guy, that's the first transfer portal loss they've had since mid-December. So the numbers that they have going on here with the attrition rate to what they've been adding is pretty darn good, and they're bringing in experienced guys that are going to come in and compete right away. You just saw today. They added another guy today. Javier Morton. He's a corner. He's a JUCO guy, but he was originally an Alabama commit coming out, and boom, they're overhauling, kind of sneaky, silently, really overhauling the defensive secondary with what they've added through the transfer portal, and with the high school class coming in, and they're still dialed in with another one that they might get. So I kind of switched over to the different side of the ball. But, we hadn't even, last week when we talked, Nebraska had landed DeAndre Jackson from Texas A&M in the transfer portal, and everything was all hunky dory there. Then, he's here in town and it ends up that he finds out that he academically wasn't eligible to enroll in Nebraska right now. And like I said earlier, classes just started here officially today for the spring semester. But all of a sudden it was like, oh, he's not coming here. But no, he was still here in town. He was with his parents, and unfortunately, he won't be here for this semester. He'll have to go back to College Station and finish up one class to make himself eligible, and he'll be here in the summer. So they still hold on to him. And what makes that whole thing, I don't know, easier to digest? I'm not sure, but during that same time, during this weekend, because I didn't mention that the dead period had opened up, so this was the first of recruiting weekend that you could host official visitors, and it was a huge recruiting weekend for Nebraska, and they've been reaping the rewards. But so I'm getting to Anthony Grant, who was here, who didn't have an offer at the time when he scheduled this visit, just because of DeAndre being committed here and stuff. But he was still coming here on a visit, had a great visit, pulled the trigger. And, Anthony Grant, we're talking about the number one JUCO player in the country at running back. And he's a guy that looks a lot like Dedrick Mills, who we know that was pretty good here after coming out of the JUCO ranks. So, yeah, look at the firepower they're adding on there. That's skill positions over skill position guys that you're adding to the mix, and what they've added with receiver from the transfer portal and in recruiting, and then add on 3 redshirt receivers that you didn't get to see play this year. I'm really starting to like. I mean, you got loaded rooms up and down there on your skill positions at quarterback, at running back, and wide receiver. It's really cool to kind of see, and I don't know, people that weren't expecting Nebraska to make a splash like this, then shame on you, because it looks to me like they know what they're doing.
So just to get everyone caught up on all the news here, as Greg has just outlined everything across the board, but Nebraska picks up here in the past few days, number one JUCO running back Anthony Grant, JUCO defensive back Javier Morton. We discussed, of course, Chubba Purdy, who's coming off a season which he only threw 5 passes, but the year before he had 1 start for Florida State and put up a 27 for 53 with a couple touchdown passes in that. And of course, Casey Thompson led the Big 12 in touchdown passes last year. He should be the starter, but I got to think that at least on the surface, it's an open competition. Mentioned Will Honus, 7th season is going to be played somewhere else. He had 57 tackles the year before last, meaning in 2020, 67 the year before that. Unfortunately, tore up his knee at the end of spring workouts here in 2021 and couldn't play this past football season with the Huskers.
Second ACL for him.
The second time he's torn an ACL.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
And now we also have, before we move on to the other personnel news on the coaching staff, what do you think is going through Logan Smothers' mind? So he goes from a position where he could battle for the starting spot, and he still can technically battle for the starting spot, but it's not looking so good.
Yeah, and I haven't talked to Logan, and I know Logan pretty well. I know his dad pretty well, and both very big Husker fans, always have been. But I've got to think that the writing's on the wall, and I think Logan's probably looking elsewhere. But he's not scared to compete. That's one thing for sure about him. And like I said, he loves this program. He loves Coach Frost. He lost his quarterback coach, the guy that recruited him, but he's still willing to stay here as it is. But I think that he's probably gonna. I don't know. He's still enrolled. He's in class today. But I got to think that maybe after spring ball, after they kind of things shake out during spring ball, and he kind of sees where he is on the totem pole. I think probably that he would decide to test the waters elsewhere. But that's just me. Just being realistic of what's going on right now, and kind of having a new offensive coordinator that has a little bit different philosophy than that you might have been brought in here under. But like I said, he's not scared to compete, and I fully expect him to do that during spring ball and kind of see where it lies after that.
I'll say this, that I saw Chubba Purdy play just a little bit. He hasn't played much for anybody to see him play.
Logan's played more. Logan's played more Division I.
Yeah. So obviously he started that Iowa game last year and ran it 24 times, hit 23 out of 33. And I watched that game, and sure, he made a bad mistake near the end of the game, but considering he's got a ton of inexperience, there's a lack of experience there. Don't assume. I don't think fans should be assuming because there are transfers in that they're automatically better players and are going to take these guys' spots. Because based on what I've seen of Logan Smothers and Chubba Purdy, Logan Smothers should be competing for a strong position as the backup.
Yeah, and I failed to mention too that, and because I saw Star Trek Asylum's comment there that, yeah, you know what, Nebraska does not want to lose Logan Smothers, and I guarantee you that there's going to be ways that they're going to try to get him involved in the game, even if he's not the starting quarterback. I'm talking about wildcat situations. Just kind of like he alluded to with Luke McCaffrey. There's ways that you can include those guys in the game and be positive contributors, even if they're not the so-called starting quarterback. And I think all those different combinations and different weapons that you have at your disposal makes you just that much more of a different team. To try to game plan against when you're playing against Nebraska.